Hey there Babylonians, my name is Songs of Rage and I am back to bring to you a different kind of video than what we've actually done before. This one is a suggestion from our Discord channel, and as soon as I heard about it I thought this was a game changer. I thought there's no way this could possibly be good, and with his blessing I was able to do some kind of video, some kind of gameplay, and yes, this is actually CT15 worthy. This is from a member of our Discord called Captain Balderdash, and what he suggested to me was the fact that you can wear other classes' legendary items on different classes. Now, I get that most people will instantly turn their nose up at that and go, "Oh, what's the point in that? Why would you ever do that?" And actually, there is a reason for it, and I do think that the Devastator gives us... the Seismic Commander set piece is not just for anomaly-powered skills, while Devastator classes altogether. The extra 50% to damage is just so extraordinary that you can actually put it onto any kind of firepower build, so you could potentially get away with it for a Trickster. The only downside is the fact that if you do run all 5 pieces, then you are going to be missing out on 5 mod slots. So you could potentially run like 3 of them, depending on if you want the anomaly power or the max health kind of rolls, and then you could just put it into any kind of build. So this is what I've done with my Technomancer. I've managed to use the full set of the Seismic Commander just to show that it is actually doable. This is in a solo environment. This is not to mess with anyone else's games. This is not to join a random public lobby and just mess up any kind of runs that they were planning on doing. This was just to essentially test it, just to see if it's viable, and lo and behold, we're onto a cracker right here. Now, I have my thoughts as to why this actually does work. Now, you'll see the numbers in the background. They're not too dissimilar from the damage that I'm able to output in my standard Firepower Technomancer build. Now, I know that I can hit crits in excess of 1 million, but this still does make light work of any kind of enemies that appear. It may use like an extra burst, but it still gets the job done. Now, why is that the case when I'm missing half of my mod selection? Now, some of my mods usually do go towards defense, just to be able to keep myself a bit alive, just to keep myself viable, but this gives me essentially an extra 10k health. It gives me more skills life leech, and the anomaly power does go to waste, unfortunately. I did have an idea that maybe anomaly enhancements, the tier 2 mod, would boost up the firepower to make up the difference, and I do think that is possibly the case, but I just didn't try the rifle at all. I was just using the burst AR, and it was just doing wonders and doing work, as you'll see in the background. So why does this work? Well, the idea is that, and this is my theory, is that the multipliers that happen for all the damage just combine into one. Now, when you do a standard techno build, you're primarily just focusing on the extra toxic damage that you're just going to be getting, so Euthanizer and Radical Therapy, just to be able to boost up your damage that way. But when you go into this kind of side of things, you can actually go into Toxic and Bleed, because the set bonus already gives you 50%, but one of the pieces also gives you an extra 25% damage to Bleed, and obviously you can still go into Toxic on top of that, so you've got another multiplier there. I did have a thought that maybe the Absolute Zero Assault Rifle, if you put Dark Sacrifice on that to be able to make up some of the damage loss that you would have had, then you can have Freeze, Toxic, and Bleed all on the same build, all of them being multiplied by their own separate mods. It potentially could do even more damage than what we're currently looking at, and would actually make up the difference. Now, this theory only works with, from what I can gather, two legendary sets in the whole game, and that is the Borealis Monarch and the Seismic Commander. And the reason why is because every other one specifically mentions a skill, and only that class can use that skill. So there is absolutely no point in using any of the other kind of legendary gear, apart from obviously Cannonball. Cannonball is just generic for every single class, but there's just no point in swapping over the gear sets to any other kind of character. So you can do extra damage to Frozen with the Borealis, which is quite nice, and I'm going to potentially test that out with a Devastator, just to see if I can get a Firepower Devastator to use Freeze as well as all the other kind of mods that's going on. And obviously you can then use the Seismic Commander, which will affect any enemies inflicted with Bleed. Now, in terms of how to inflict bleed, the main way I was able to do this is through one of the armor mods, which was in critical shots inflict bleed. Now for firepower builds this is easy enough, this is relatively simple. You can just get away with that, and then obviously you're getting a nice damage multiplier of 50% for the set bonus, and if you've then got into the extra 25% on the armor mod, then you can obviously get another 25% on top of that, which is very, very nice, and obviously will increase your damage output to very nice numbers. Now when it comes to anomaly builds, it's kind of difficult because the Technomancer doesn't have anything that inflicts bleed. Only the Devastator really has anything that can do that. I know Tricksters for their firepower builds sometimes use Vampiric Mag to be able to offset and be able to keep refilling their twisted rounds, so that might be a nice option. But when it comes to Anomaly, it's just very difficult, and you kind of have to rely on other teammates to be able to inflict that to then get that extra damage bonus, which obviously is very inconsistent, and I would highly recommend that you don't. You just kind of steer clear of that kind of aspect. All in all, this isn't very practical. It is a lot of fun to be able to mess with people if you do join random games, or if you're joining someone that's doing like carry streams or anything like that. It is a lot of fun, and now that I've mentioned that, I highly expect someone to be able to turn up into my game that's going to be doing the exact same thing just to really throw me off. But in terms of is it the most practical, definitely isn't, and I would highly recommend that you stay with your class's legendary sets to be able to get the full advantage of everything you can do. Now, I am kind of trying to be determined to be able to find a way to get Seismic Commander to work for pretty much every single class, because that extra 50% flat damage to bleeding targets is just so nice. So I might challenge myself to see if there's any other kind of builds that kind of can fit that into it, but just off the top of my head, it's basically any kind of firepower builds that are just going to be aiming for critical shots. So at least that's what I've got currently at the time being. In terms of the Frozen one though, in terms of Borealis Monarch, that obviously can fit onto a little bit more of a wider range, because that does actually roll with firepower. So you could potentially get away with things like Winter's Blast from the Iceberg sniper rifle, or you can just use the Absolute Zero to be able to just freeze one target at a time. Both are pretty viable. That extra 90% damage will be very nice. Obviously, this will work a lot better once that latest patch drops, because that will then make it pretty much so efficient. So it will just work every single time, 100% of the time, and you do not need to worry. So thanks again, one last shout out to Captain Balderdash over on our Discord for suggesting this idea. It was a lot of fun to be able to work, and literally first time it just worked perfectly. So if you have any other suggestions like this, and you think it will make a really good video idea, or you just want to be able to test ourselves, feel free to head over to our Discord. Link is in the video description that you can find down below. Head over to there. We do have a suggestions tab, or by all means drop me a DM on there, and I will be able to talk it through and obviously see if it's something that's viable, see if it's something that can actually work. Hopefully you've learned something useful somehow. Hopefully you've enjoyed, hopefully you found it funny, and hopefully you find it entertaining. Feel free to mess about with some of your friends or some randoms online with this. I don't think it's toxic. I do find it quite funny, the fact that you can just throw a couple of people off with this kind of thing, especially seeing as it is CT15 viable. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe the video if you did find this funny and you did enjoy it, and keep yourself safe, keep yourself well, and I'll see you all on that next video.